Hi there, so I'm finally getting around to doing my gear video for what I carried on the PCT. I just spoke to my boss this week and told him that I want to go back and hike the Sierra this summer like I said I did, and they were very okay with it. So I kind of pulled out all my gear to see what I had and what I was working with, and then I remembered I never made this video. So now I'm finally gonna make it. So I'll just go through everything I carried. There were some things I added and took out depending on what section we were in, but this was the stuff that went the whole way. I'll show a few of the things that I subbed in and out, but this is when I say my base weight, this is what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'll go through everything and I'll say what it is, what brand it is, how much it weighed, and then I don't actually even know my base weight at the moment because I subbed out a lot of stuff and switched some gear during the trip. So I don't know what it is right now, but I'll tally it all up at the end and say what the total was. So yeah. Alright, so here's everything, just to give you a look at what it all looks like unpacked. Okay, so my camera just died, so I'm going to go through this with my iPhone filming it, because I didn't plan on doing this video and I forgot to charge my camera. So I'll just go through one by one and tell you what each thing I carried was. So for my pack, I used the Laurel Designs Prophet. I ended up switching to the ULA circuit partway through because my hip straps on this got so big that they wouldn't fit my hip anymore. And I had sewed them a couple of times so that they would be smaller, but it ended up just being way too big. And so I'm gonna sell this pack to Ball Flap, and when I do the Sierra, I'll have the Mountain Laurel burn. So just one size smaller, because I did find that I had a bit extra room in this at the end once I started narrowing down my gear and getting rid of the things I didn't need in the desert. For clothes, I had the Hawaiian shirt, obviously. No specific brand or anything, just thrift shop shirt that I liked. I had one of the Lululemon sports bras. It held up really well. This is what I had in the desert. It's what I got to Canada with, and it's still in pretty much perfect condition. So their stuff's really great if you're a girl and you're looking for things to bring that won't break. I also had a pair of Lululemon shorts. I switched shorts halfway through because mine got too big, but the ones I started with were Lululemon, and then the ones I ended with were as well. And same thing, there was no problems, no tears, no damage of any kind to them. It just, the first pair got too big, so I had to switch it for that reason. Underwear, ExOfficio, just one pair. Socks, darn tough. I had two, and then I sometimes carried a third if it was wet or extra cold. That way I'd have like a nice pair that wasn't crusty to wear at night. I had Patagonia Thermalweight base layer pants, and these are what I eventually carried alone instead of carrying these and leggings, because in the desert I carried leggings too to wear during the day. But by the time I stopped carrying, I realized that if I was cold, I could put these on over my shorts, and when I got hot, I'd take them off, and that was all I needed. For gloves, these were the Zpacks Possum down gloves, and I carried those. They're not waterproof or anything, but they kept my hands warm. I carried a buff, but I cut it down, so usually they're a lot longer. I cut it just to what I would want to wear as a headband, and so if I would get cold, I could pull part of it over my ears. So this took a place of a hat as well, because if I was cold enough to want a hat, I would have this on covering my ears, and then I would put my hood of my jacket up. So the buff was something I wore every day. And then my jacket was the Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer, and I loved it. It held up great. and it did the job. It kept me warm. And sleeping pad, I did a comparison video of the two pads I started with and why I switched to this one, but this was the sleeping pad I carried. And then sleeping bag, I had the Enlightened Equipment 0 degree Enigma, and I had started with a 10 degree in the desert, and then it broke and they made me a new one, and I had asked them when they made me a new one if they could change it to a 0 degree just because I was so cold in the desert. And there were parts in Northern California where it got too hot, but I would much rather stick a leg out and be too warm than be freezing at night, because that was horrible. So I had the 0 degree and I loved it. For my tent, I had the Gossamer Gear The One tent, and this is it. I also carried 2 Zpacks stuff sacks, the large cylinder dry bag and the, what was the other one? The Zpacks pack liner dry bag. So these are my 2 dry bags that I carried. One of them was for my food, so I didn't carry the, or your sack, whatever that one is. I carried just my food in one of their dry bags, and I never had a problem. I slept with it as a pillow every night in my tent, and the only issue I ever had a problem with an animal and my food was when I carried the loaf of bread, and that was irrelevant to what I put all my other food in. So that was my food bag, and then I put all of my things in my pack into their pack liner bag. That way, just if it was ever extra wet, it just had an extra layer of something to keep it dry. And then tent stakes, they were just some titanium stakes I picked up in Julian. No, Idlewild. Because my first one's broke. Oh, because my first one's broke. I had gotten, what were my tent stakes? Okay, I don't remember what tent stakes I had, but the ones I had, they were like some ultralight tent stakes, and they just did not work, so just get some titanium ones. I carried a titanium spork, but I can't find it. I think it's in the dishwasher. So this is the first spork I carried. It was just the Light My Fire spork, and you can carry one of these. They're great. They're light, and they will probably snap in half while you're eating tuna. But if you don't mind only having half of it, then it's great. I also had the Sawyer filter for my water, obviously. My stove was the MSR Pocket Rocket, and I threw out the red thing that it gets carried in, that it comes in, and I would just keep it in my food bag or in my my pot, somewhere it wouldn't break, but I threw out the thing that you carry it in. And fuel, I would usually carry one of the big guys, that way I wouldn't run out, and I never did run out. I usually had extra, but yeah, I always carried a big one. And then I carried a cup, which is a bit excessive, the Snow Peak 450 titanium cup, but I really liked not having to clean out my pot when I would finish eating and be able to have a cup of hot chocolate, so carried both. The pot, it's a Snow Peak. I don't know what size it is. Snow Peak titanium something. I have no idea, but it's that big, so. I carried a water bladder just because I would stop in the desert all the time when I would want to drink from my smart water bottle, and it really slowed me down. So I carried a bladder in addition to one smart water bottle to filter from. Sometimes I'd have 2 smart water bottles depending on how dry the sections coming up were. But I always had this, and then the number of smart water bottles I had would vary based on where I was. And I had a portable power bank. This one was 16,000 megahertz, and I thought I had an Anchor. Turns out it's just an Amazon Basics. That's interesting. That's the first time I've realized that. Phone charger. My headlamp was the Black Diamond Spot headlamp, and that's great. If you want to hear more about this one, I do a podcast with the Trek called Backpacker Radio, and in episode 6, it's not out yet, we just recorded it, but in episode 6 we go into this type of headlamp and what each of us carried as a headlamp and what we liked and didn't like about it. So you can learn more about this if you look up Backpacker Radio. And obviously toothbrush, toothpaste. I didn't cut my handle off because I didn't care that much, but I'll just keep this in a plastic bag. And then I'd carry a hairbrush. I didn't start with one, but my hair just got like really tangled and was starting to get dreaded, and so I added this. This I did break the handle off of because the handle was so heavy, but it was the only one the store had, so I didn't have any choices. And then chapstick, which I wrapped Leuko tape around. You can put this on any blister or any like cut on your foot or anything, and then just put your socks on it and you can walk on it, and it like, obviously you still feel the pain a bit, but it literally changed everything when I switched from like blister stuff and any type of first aid stuff to just carrying Leuko tape. And it sticks forever. Like, you could put it on and it would last until you got to the next town, and then you take it off when you went to take a shower, and you just put it back on, and that's it. You can ignore everything. So yeah, I carried that. And then that's about it, honestly. Oh, I carried a through pack, fanny pack towards the end because I really wanted a fanny pack, and it was really nice to have snacks, like, so accessible. That was the best part. When I subbed in stuff, I had a rain jacket. I started with a Frog Togs rain jacket, which was fine. I just accidentally put it in the dryer and the washing machine a couple of times, and then it kind of lost its purpose. So then I picked up a Patagonia rain jacket at some discount store, and this was good when I needed it. And other than that, it was just I subbed in a few extra layers if I was going to be somewhere super cold or wet. But yeah, this is it. So now I gotta start going through it again and seeing what I'm gonna be bringing this summer and what I can make improvements on, and I guess find out what my base weight even is. That would be probably useful. And I need to find a new shirt. So yeah, I've got a lot to do. So I forgot to add that there were some things that you had to carry in different parts. So I had my bear bin for the parts that we needed that for. Basically, I carried it from Kennedy Meadows to Lone Pine, but you don't actually need it until you get to Lone Pine, so I didn't have to do that. And then when you needed it in Lassen, we just camped in the park campground that had the bear boxes the first night and then hiked all the way through the second day. But I had the bear bin, and then I had a pair of crampons and micro spikes that I switched between. And then I had my whippet that I carried instead of an ice axe, just because I went off recommendations for that, but I don't think I can actually give a valid assessment of how that was because I never really needed it. So I just weighed it. I weighed myself once without wearing it, and then I weighed myself again while wearing the pack. That way I could just subtract the difference. I put all my stuff into the pack that I will be carrying, the MLD Burn, and I took out the cup because I don't think I'll be bringing the cup this summer. But everything else is in here, and it'll obviously look a lot better when I'm actually not going to unpack it the second after. But the total weight came out to 8.2 pounds, and that's without obviously my bra or shorts or, you know, the things I actually will be wearing. So I put the extra pair of socks in there and the long pants that I don't usually wear 24/7, but anything that I wear all day while I'm hiking wouldn't really go into the base weight. So this is everything, and yeah, 8.2 pounds.